When we are graphing, we're going to introduce some terminology, and that terminology is domain and range. And an easy way to understand domain and range is domain is X. Okay, so domain is related to X, and range is related to Y. So domain is X, range is Y. So that's a very simple way to remember domain and range. We can also connect domain and range to our input and output of our calculation. So when we have a function, in this case we have y equals 2x plus 7. We have an input x, so these inputs are part of our domain, and we have an output y, which is part of our range. So if I put x is equal to negative 5 into this expression, I get 2 times negative 5, that's negative 10. Plus 7 is going to give us an output or a range of negative 3. And I can plot those coordinates. So when I plot that coordinate, I have my input negative 5, my output negative 3. It's right there. And so the domain is along the x. Okay, x is horizontal. The range is along the y. So notice that I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. 1, 2, 3 down. That represents our domain value of negative 5 and our range value of negative 3. So my input negative 2 into here, I get negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, plus 7 is going to give us positive 3. So I have a domain input of negative 2, a range output of positive 3. And I can do the same with these other coordinates, negative 1, positive 5, 0, 7, and 1, 9. And they happen to give us this straight line pattern. So basically, domain is X, range is Y. We should connect this to input. Domain is the input, the range is the output. And domain and range are not restricted to values just in input-output tables, but for the whole function. So when I have a relationship like this, really the line is like this. And sometimes I describe my domain range in terms of intervals. So if I have a graph, so this is a straight line, it starts at this point and ends at this point. When I talk about the domain values for x are not just some individual input parts, but they are a range of values from negative 7 to 8. So if I take a look at this line here, along the x-axis, it's going to take on values of negative 8 all the way to negative 7 all the way to positive 8. So when we talk about the range values, we say that y can take on values, so that's my bottom. So negative 3 all the way to the top, which is positive 7, so my range values are from negative 3 to positive 7. So this is our domain and range. The one last thing that I'll add on to this, and we talk about this a little bit more, is when we talk about relationships. There's the independent and dependent variables. So the dependent variable depends, and it is the y value. So it's the output of our calculations. So this is called the y, or the range is the dependent variable. And the domain is our input. Our input is what we call the independent variable, and that's along the x, and that's also part of the domain.